Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. Imani Ma'at.
And I'm J. Bernard Khan Sr.
And together we are Sankofa Institute for Wellness, bringing you our podcast, our weekly podcast on health and wellness. And as usual, we have a wonderful show lined up this evening. And the topic is homelessness. And it's a topic that's impacting so many people, not just in this country, but around the globe. So we're going to have a great discussion this evening with our guest. But before we get to that, Jay Bernard is going to do a little bit of a spiritual decompression, which we do every week at the beginning of our show.
Yes, thank you, Imani. We like to settle in as we begin our show. So for those of you who would like to participate, I would like to invite you to wherever you are, if you're sitting especially, or even if you're standing, if you take just one moment to close your eyes if you like. I want to invite you to take in 3 cleansing breaths in and out through the nose. Begin to relax your body so that what our special guest Kimberly has to share with us tonight, we can receive in our hearts and be moved to action as we are inspired by her wonderful words. I want to read to you for our meditation the words from the Living Wisdom of the Tao. Read it from verse 11. This will sound like a riddle in a way. So listen very carefully. It's very short, and I've read it several times, and I'm still in awe in what the words of wisdom are saying here. Hear these words, verse 11, or the 11th verse, as I should say. The usefulness of what is depends on what is not. The usefulness of what is depends on what is not. 30 spokes converge upon a single hub. It is on the hole in the center that the use of the cart hinges. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Carve fine doors and windows, but the room is useful in its emptiness. The usefulness of what is depends on what is not. Ashe.
Ashe.
Namaste.
Namaste. That's
Amen.
Amen.
What do you take from that one? The usefulness of what is depends on what is not.
Well, it made me think back to a lesson where someone was talking about energy and space and the fact that there's more emptiness than vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And, in terms of cells, in terms of our bodies, in terms of the earth, we have more air than anything else, more space than anything else. So, I was kind of thinking about that in terms of, what engulfs the space, because that becomes the thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the thing that's wrapped around emptiness. So, I mean, there are a lot of different ways you can take that and explore. What did it mean? Why did it capture you? And I want you to say the name of the author whenever.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is
Wayne.
Dr. Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, the number one New York Times best-selling author,
And now ancestor.
and an ancestor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um,
So the 11th verse.
yeah, the 11th verse, but the shape clay into a vessel, for example, it is the space within that makes it useful. And so I think the clay outside kind of serves as a shape for a container, so that which is on the inside can be used in a way that would be for whatever the user wants to use it for, that can be of help. Makes me think of, just as I was saying that, what came to mind was in the therapy room space when clients come, there's this kind of emptiness on the inside of the room, of the four walls. But when they come in to share and have conversations about their lives, it is within the space they're making use of. And so that's why that kind of inspires me. It's just like, if we can create a kind of our own sacred space where we can find more of ourselves by turning inside, we can find usefulness from within that can be of help not only to ourselves but to others in the world.
Okay, I'll leave it there. But thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And one of the things that I always often talk about is energy and vibration, and that everything has a vibration, everything has energy. And when you walk into a room, you can, or say someone walks into a room, there's 3 or 4 people there. If someone comes in and they have a real high vibration, they're just glowing. Everyone will kind of turn. It's like, who is that masked man, person, just because their vibration is so high. So we carry vibrations, energy, through us, with us, and everything has a vibration, not just people. But there are a lot of studies on how sound frequencies can actually help the body to get back in balance and heal itself. And so a lot of people say that I'm a gadget person. That's fine. I can accept that. I've been called worse. But one of my favorite gadgets is called the AL scanner. And the AL scanner basically does a reading of your body, and it's listening for sounds and for tones. You actually speak into it, and it helps it gives back frequencies that help to balance out any imbalances that it finds. And it's really, really, really an amazing piece of technology that I think every household could benefit from. It works on people, it works on animals. It's just really, it works on plants.
And we didn't bring
I know
neither one of our devices out here.
Yeah, but there is a little video. So maybe Janet.
Have you ever felt frustrated waiting to be seen when you're not feeling your best? Or ever struggled through tests and expensive procedures without ever finding real relief? Imagine if you could get a better understanding of your overall well-being right now, in minutes. What would that mean to you, or to your family? We'd like you to know there's a whole new way to improve your comprehension surrounding your wellness, using a total body scanner unlike any other, right in your own home. This groundbreaking new technology helps you to better understand your body's needs and wellness status, and it's available to you and your family right now. Here's how the science works. Every organ in the human body vibrates at a particular frequency. When illness appears, this frequency changes. Think about it like tuning a guitar. When the string frequencies are incorrect, the music will not sound harmonious. When your body's frequencies are restored, you restore harmony to your whole body, energizing and optimizing your mental, emotional, and nutritional states. We found that people who experienced this technology were so excited they started telling everyone. So we also created an income opportunity where people can earn a little extra by sharing the product. No more wondering, no more worrying. Take charge of creating your best life. Learn more about how you can retune, revitalize, and restore your own body harmony by clicking the link below.
So Bernard wanted me to show what the tablet version of the scanner looks like. It really is like a big tablet, but and that's a small phone size. But there are several scans there are many scans that it does. There are many frequencies that are contained within it. One of the ones that I like is called the inner voice, and you basically you speak into it for all of them, but you speak into it and it listens to your voice and it listens for missing tones, and it'll give you tones that relate to the tones that are missing in you, and it really helps to create a balance. I remember when I first started using it, you always think that you're handling situations, because we just have it like that. We're strong, and and I did my voice for the inner voice scan. And when I got my tones, I was listening to the tones, and I was falling asleep because it was very, very soft, very soothing. And next thing I knew, I was with my brother, who had passed, maybe two or 3 years before that. And one of the dogs is competing with me talking. Bella. So anyway, the tones are so beautiful, and they take you so deep emotionally, and they really help to clean out. And I sat up in the bed, and tears were flowing down, and I'm like, I thought I had managed this. I thought that I was past this, but there were things that still needed to be worked on, and the frequencies help me to go a little bit deeper, and it sneaks up on you because you really don't expect it to do that. One of my mentors, Dr. Dr. Mark, I remember him saying that if you listen to these tones, that's the inner voice tones, for 2 weeks straight, in the morning when you wake up and in the evening before you go to bed, that's the equivalent of like 20 years of psychotherapy. Just like, boy, don't we need that? Don't all of us need some form of psychotherapy? So anyway, just wanted to share that. If anyone's interested, we can do scans. Some people do them long distance, which is very easy to do. Frequencies and energy doesn't have space and time, so you can do them long distance, and they're just as effective. We've done them with people in other countries, and they get the full effect. But anyway, we're going to move on because that's one of my favorite subjects, and I don't want to delay in terms of introducing our wonderful, wonderful guest, who I just had the pleasure of meeting maybe a little about 2 weeks ago. But anyway, the subject is homelessness. Homelessness is a problem in the United States and around the world. And it's a multifaceted issue that has persisted for a long, long time. Well, there's no exact or current count of the total number of homeless individuals in the United States. There are estimates suggesting that there's around 580,466 people. I think the number is much, much higher, because what's not taken into that particular count are people who are sleeping on relatives' couches or friends' couches. They're not counted in the total count of people who are homeless. And homelessness can take on many different shapes and flavors and feelings. You've got people in shelters, you got people on the streets, you got people living in their cars, you got people on park benches, you got people in temporary housing, like I was saying, living on people's couches. So Anyway, I was blessed to meet somebody very, very special 2 weeks ago who was visiting a youth program that I'm on the board of, Results Kids Club, which is here in Decatur, Georgia. And her name is Kimberly Whitley. And one of the first things that I was struck by was just, we're talking about energy. Her energy was so high. And I mean, she was just like a ray of sunshine. So I was like, who is this person? We just struck up a conversation. I'm like, you have to come on our show, to talk about the work that you're doing. Kimberly is no stranger to homelessness because she's been there herself. She's experienced it with her two young children. She she was born in Decatur, Illinois, and she moved to Virginia, where she lived for 22 years. And while there, she served 8 years in the Navy Reserves before moving to Georgia 11 years ago. She's a mother of three beautiful children and six amazing grandchildren. Kimberly loves God and is not ashamed to tell the world. When asked what drew her to start her nonprofit organization called Glorious Helping Hands, Inc., she stated that at once homeless as a young single parent of two children, she had to live in a shelter. She always vowed that she would do everything in her power to help people who were down on their luck and in need of a hand up, not a handout. So, I mean, I just like her energy around that, in terms of helping people to help themselves and to get to the next stage. So, without further ado, let's bring on Miss Kimberly Whitley.
Hello.
Hello,
Hey,
Kimberly.
Kimberly, how are
Welcome.
you?
Hello. Well, thank you for having me.
How
Oh,
are you?
absolutely.
You're so welcome. We're so glad that you were open to coming on the show and talking about your work and who you are, and you got Facebook folks saying hello, giving you a shout out. So
Hello.
hello, Facebook folks, and everybody else watching on LinkedIn and YouTube. So Kimberly, tell us a little bit. I'll let Bernard. He always likes to ask who people are, like who are you, at the core. So I'll let you ask your question.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Kimberly, when Imani came home and talked about meeting you, and she was excited and just overjoyed and was thrilled that you had accepted to come on the show and share with our audience your gifts and your love for people. Uh, but you just did not arrive at this place where you are today. So I'm always interested in knowing, as Imani said, about some of the core and early foundation. So tell us a little bit about your early life, something your own childhood experience. You know, I always say free associate. That is to say, just whatever
Whatever
stories
comes up
come to
first.
mind, especially. And I always have this frame, and this time frame is very. There's a method to the madness. Between birth and age 12, what stands out about your story during that time period?
Lord have mercy.
Right?
Okay, so at probably about 8 or 9, I remember we lived across the street from a park, and my next door neighbor, um, her name was Peggy.
Mm.
Peggy's parents had, I think, like 7 or 8 kids. So it was, I think, two or three girls, and the rest were boys, and they were less fortunate than I. Um, my sisters always say I was spoiled. I don't think I was spoiled. I'll say I was loved. So my mom provided me with whatever I wanted, pretty much. And I recall I had this pink Huffy bike, the one with the long wide seat,
Mhm.
you know, and I was in the process of getting a new bike, and there was nothing wrong with the other bike. I just wanted a new one. And so my mom said I can get me a new bike. And I said, well, I'm going to give this bike to Peggy because she doesn't have anything, you know. So I remember always giving her clothes and shoes and toys and stuff. And I remember that pink Huffy bike, my nieces, they're like 3 years. One is 3 years younger than me, and then the other one is like 2 years younger than me, or 4 years or something like that. They were so upset with me because I gave Peggy that bike and they wanted that bike. And I remember that very, very vaguely and vividly. And then I went through some trauma at the age of 11. I was over at one of my sister's house, and I was babysitting. And I woke up to a man sitting in the wicker chair with a knife to my nephew neck. And my sister wasn't home, and he raped me, you know. So when you say those years, that's why I was like, oh Lord, because that, you know, that 11-year-old child was violated.
Right.
And I never spoke of it as a child because he knew what school I went to. He knew where my mom worked. He knew all about my sisters and everything about my family, and he threatened to kill us. So as a child, I had to live with that, and I never spoke about it until I was older, and that's when that healing started for me, as far as that's concerned.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's very powerful and and it's always very inspiring for those who are listening, uh, for your courage and openness to share that with us. Because I would imagine, and we can talk about this part later, but in some sense, that's an early um, part of your formation that has some inspiration in what you are doing today. Would you, is
Exactly.
that right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So as you were sharing, I was wondering next, somewhere in that range or a little older, when you look back again, who inspired you? Who would you say was that you didn't know was an inspirer then, but when you look back, this person also has some that inspired you to be the person who you are today. Who comes to mind?
I would say my mother and my aunt Earlene.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You know, they were two strong women that I knew. My aunt Earlene was a Christian. You know, she's the one that would take me to church, and that's where my Christian foundation started, with her and my uncle Emmett taking me to church with them. Um, and my mom, she was a single mom, and she was a hard working woman. You know, she worked Monday through Friday, and she was a chef, so she cooked, and she was always on her feet. So the I guess the go get it, you know, the working hard and stuff like that. I had definitely got that from my mom.
Mm-hmm. Um, and before we leave this subject, I want you to because clearly you're at a different place now, but I want you to speak to young people. If there are young people listening, if something like that happens to them in terms of being attacked, being raped, being violated, what is your message to them so that they wouldn't have to carry that like you did, into young adulthood or however long you carried that.
I would definitely tell them, no matter what the violator tell you, you seek help. You tell someone.
Mm-hmm.
You scream it to the I don't care if they say they're gonna kill you or your family, whatever. Whatever
Right.
threats they give, you don't worry about that. You tell someone. And then on after you have told someone, get some counseling because you're gonna need it. You know, and back when I was growing up, you know, that was really never heard of anyway, counseling.
Right.
Right.
Especially with our race, black
Hmm.
people. Even today, a lot of people shun counseling,
Right.
but I find counseling to be a source of healing, and I go to therapy today So because I have experienced several different types of trauma in my life, that was the worst,
Mhm.
because I was a child and I didn't understand,
Mhm.
but if there's anyone, I don't care if you're grown,
Mhm.
if you're being violated, seek
Mm,
help.
Right.
Because there's resources out there for you. There's organizations that will help you. And of course, the police is there. And don't feel like no one will hear you or
Mhm.
no one will believe you,
Mhm.
because there's people out there that will believe you.
mm.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very powerful message that needs to be expressed, and very good, solid question from Imani. And thank you again for offering those words of wisdom, from an element of your own suffering and pain and ongoing transformation.
Mhm.
You're
That's,
welcome.
that's important. Um, so tell us, kind of fast forward, and thank you again for sharing that. Fast forward, tell us about your experience as living homeless and how you transformed your life from there. What were the important elements, and then how you ended up creating your own organization. And do that in 10 minutes or less.
Okay. I'll try.
We got time. We got time.
Okay. So, I the first time I was in the shelter, because it happened twice.
Okay.
The first time, I had left home at 21, August of 91, and moved to Washington State with a gentleman,
Hmm.
me and my two girls. And once we got to Washington State, he had his brother, sister in law, and their daughter there. So we had to live with them for a period of time till we got on our feet. And that household was so violent, it was so, um, it was a lot of chaos all the time.
Hmm.
And I remember this particular time we were cooking and like doing a cookout or whatever. And they got into it, the husband and the wife, the brother and sister in law. And me, I don't know these people. I'm not going to get involved. I'm new to the area. I'm just going to go into my room and
Hmm.
let them do what they do. And the guy that I was dating came in the room and said, "Hey, you need to go talk to her." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to stay out of it." So he got angry at me and start calling me out of my name and all of this stuff. And I didn't, you know, before waiting to excel, Kim excelled.
Hmm.
So I went and I took all of his stuff and put it on the yard and poured the hot coals on it. It just, but anyway, so that
Wow.
guy, after we moved into our own apartment, he was violent.
Mm.
Um, I remember I wasn't working, he was working, and he would want dinner ready when he got home. So I would always cook, dinner would be ready. This one particular night, he didn't get home till like 9 or 10 o'clock, but he got off at like 4 o'clock.
Hmm.
So where you been? But dinner was ready, it was in the microwave. So when he came home, he had been drinking. And he was, I laid down, I was laying down at the time, and he's like, "Go get my food," and all of this. I was like, "No, it's in the microwave, go heat it up yourself." Well, he wants to fight. So he hit me in my nose, and well, like between my nose and my mouth, so I was bleeding. He then snatched the phones out the wall, so I couldn't make a call. And then the apartment we lived in, you could only get out through the front door. So he barricaded himself at the front door,
Hmm.
and he sat on the floor and he fell asleep. And I had never been hit before, so I was gonna kill him. I went in the kitchen and I got the biggest butcher knife I could find, and I went towards him. And my baby girl, woke up crying out of her sleep. And when she woke up crying, I turned around, went back, and put the knife down. She saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
And mine, you
Yeah,
know,
that's because
and
it's
mine.
totally different,
Yeah, it's
objection.
been a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't know anyone there. So he decided he wants, now mind you, we're in a 2-bedroom apartment. He decided he wants to invite his sister down and her 5 kids to live with us without consulting me, nothing. And while she was there, we went out to the club because back then I went to the club and he got violent at the club. They kicked him out. He got mad. So when we got to the house, he wanted to fight. And that was it for me. I was like, I'm not doing this. And by the way, at that time, I was pregnant with triplets.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So when the police came, they took him to jail. And I guess I forget what they called the resource people that for abuse when you're being abused. They have women that come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they came out and they said, look, what do you want? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? I said, I want to go. I didn't have a penny in my pocket. And I went to a shelter that night, me and my kids. And they said, well, pack up everything that you can. So I picked our clothes because that's all we really had was our clothes. And we went to the shelter and we were there for like 2 days. And I called my daughter's father and he sent money for us to catch the bus back home to Illinois. But at this time, my mom, my sisters were in Virginia. So we left Washington State and took us 72 hours to get to Virginia on the Greyhound.
Oh my
Me and 2 babies.
goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when I got to Virginia, I had $3 in my pocket. Greyhound had lost all of our luggage, all of our clothes. So the
Oh,
only clothes that I had was the clothes on my back. And my daughters had the outfit they had on and 2 outfits in a diaper bag. That's all I had when I moved to Virginia.
wow. Wow.
And so shortly after getting there, about a week or so, I ended up having a miscarriage and I stayed with my sister for a little while. And then, I signed up for Section 8 and all this stuff. And the waiting list was so long.
Mm-hmm.
So her apartment was too small. So I ended up going into a shelter with the kids. And that actually helped the process of
Mm-hmm.
the Section 8 speeding up. So I think we were in the shelter for maybe 30 days or so.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing some of the things that the women had went through, a lot of it was abuse. The kids were being abused by the spouse. And I was like, Lord have mercy, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I said, if ever I get in a situation, I'm going to do everything I can to help other people.
Mm.
And that's where the glorious helping hands come into play.
So did it kind of become as a thought, and then you started looking for resources for it? What was that like, putting an organization together, coming from where you were coming
Well, it didn't start off as the shelter at first. It started off more so as helping the homeless,
from?
feeding the homeless. We would go out on Christmas, Thanksgiving. We would do like toiletry bags,
Mm-hmm.
give them clothes and shoes and food to the homeless. We would do that every Christmas, me and my kids
Mm-hmm.
and my grandkids. And then uh, the pandemic happened
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't go out and give to the homeless and stuff. And I worried, I was like, okay, what are they going to do? Now I know because there are so many homeless people out there, I know I can't do it by myself, but the little that I was doing was helping.
Mm-hmm.
And so my daughter suggested I reach out to a group home during the pandemic because we couldn't go out.
Mhm.
and give. And I reached out to a group home and asked them how many children they had. It was around Christmas time, and
Mhm.
they had 32 children. So I told them, I said, listen, all the children, I want you to uh, ask them what they want for Christmas. They can pick two items, each item $30 or below. And I went out and I purchased all of those items. And my daughters and her friends got together and they donated duffel bags to put all the stuff in, shoes, uh, beat headphone. I mean, it was just so amazing. It was so amazing. And then after that happened, that was in 2020. And I was like, I got to do more. I have to do more. I have to do more. And so that's where the shelter started.
Mhm.
And I'm still looking for a building, trying to get funding to get a building. But, right now I'm, doing the work. I have the 501c3 and
Mhm.
looking for grants and stuff.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was what I was about to ask. Where do you have a place, a facility?
Not
Which,
yet.
okay.
Not
Mhm.
yet.
But what are you learning now about yourself as you're interacting and working and helping those who are homeless?
That I have a heart
Mhm.
that it's just it amazes me that I am so passionate about helping other people. And I have empathy for them. You
Mhm.
know, some people choose to be homeless. I will say that.
Yeah.
Some people choose to be homeless. But those who don't have a choice and who don't want to be there,
Mhm.
I want to be able to help them in some way, especially the women and children. I'm starting off with the women and children with the shelter.
Mhm.
And then I want it to grow and be the men and, the vets and just all over the country. I just want to help everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah, you make an excellent point in terms of the choice that some people want to be homeless. It reminded me of two stories when I was in seminary. We had to do what we called field education.
Hmm.
And so one place that I selected was Butler Street CME Church. They had a feeding ministry that the open door community would be a part.
Hmm.
And so I was down, and I was helping to serve breakfast, and it was this one brother came through the line, and he had this most beautiful, magnificent voice,
Mm.
and so I'm in seminary, so I'm going to do some evangelistic work and that. And
Right, right, right.
I said, "Wow, brother, have you considered joining the church with that voice?" And that brother looked at me and he said, "Now there you go, there you go. Just because I can sing and sing my hymn of praises, why you think I got to join some church to sing? Because I'm enjoying where I am. This is where I want to be."
Mm.
And I said,
Okay.
"Yes, sir."
Mhm.
Hmm.
But you're right. And when I was a chaplain at Grady, um, and this gentleman really inspired me, and I had to understand why was I inspired to go speak to him. Excuse me. I had to do what we call a verbatim.
Hmm.
So I was at the last minute. I went in this room and he was lying on his side, and I was having this conversation with him. And he said, "I've been homeless for 8 years." I said, "Okay."
Mm.
I said, "Well,
Mhm.
I'll be back and I'll see you tomorrow and we talk." So I went back the next day and we were talking, and I said, "Well, where are you living?" He said, "I live down there off of 75 and 20 near, at that time it was Fulton County Stadium." Uh, I said, "Is your family here?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how did you become homeless?" He said, "Well, my wife and I, we we were arguing and we were fussing, and I told her if she didn't stop doing this, that I was gonna leave, and she didn't stop, and so I left.
Mm.
I said, wow, 8 years.
Wow.
And then he said to me, he looked, and a tear started rolling down his cheek, and he said, Chaplain, can I get you to help me to get my family back?
Mm.
And I was speechless, and because that was nothing that I really could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I think we had a word of prayer together. But he wanted to go back after 8 years and find his family. Now I don't know what happened because he was in the hospital
Mm-hmm.
and was discharged. But and the mayor Andrew Young and the late Ron Saylor
Mm-hmm.
one year went out in the winter and slept on the streets to be homeless and to have the experience. Andrew Young, and he reported he came back. He said they went to one house and people didn't recognize that he was the mayor, and someone gave him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they hadn't eaten. He said that was the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich he had ever eaten in his life. And so his message was to those who was homeless. He said, if you can, go home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
figure something out.
yeah.
That's great stories. Tell us, Kimberly, some of or one of your favorite success stories in terms of your work, in terms of touching someone or someone's through your ministry. It very much is a ministry when you're out there serving the community. You're doing the work, and that's what counts. Tell us one of your favorite stories.
I think, well, the main one I think was helping the kids at the youth center, at the group home.
Okay.
But as far as a family,
Mhm.
when I first moved to Georgia, uh, a lady that I know that's a mutual friend with this lady that was having issues. She had been in an abusive relationship with her husband, and she had, I think, 5 kids. I think she had 5 kids.
Mhm.
And she had just moved here
Mhm.
to get away from the abuse, and she needed help. And so, I helped her and, you know, gave her food, and, she had found a place to stay, so she didn't need a place to stay. It was mainly like, you know, making sure they had food to eat and
Mhm.
get the resources she need as far as signing up for social services and trying to get her an attorney to get a divorce. Well, I'm still friends with her to this day.
Oh, nice.
And I had a women's empowerment brunch, our second annual women empowerment brunch for my nonprofit for Glorious Helping Hands, Hats and Heels.
Was that
And
that was Saturday, right?
this past Saturday, yes,
We
ma'am.
were supposed to have you last Tuesday, and we had technical issues with our internet, and so we were going to make a plug and encourage people to attend that event. So the event went well.
Yes, it was great, and I just thank God for it. And she was there, and
Mm-hmm.
I had asked everyone in the room to stand up and introduce themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
To
say
reveal it.
anything about Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell them your name and what it is you do. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when they
Okay.
they start going around the room and talking,
Mm-hmm.
and so many of them talked about how I touched their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I did. You do things because it's out of the kindness of your heart, and you're not. It. I wasn't thinking that it was
Looking for praise.
actually making an impact,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then when it got to her, and she stood up and she was telling about her story, and whew, I was like, Lord have mercy, Jesus, thank you.
That's so powerful. It speaks to who you are and the fact that you're real. And we only invite real people on this show. You are touching folks in a way that people need to be touched, people need to be served, and totally kind of selfless. You're doing it for other people. You're not doing it to get praise. You wouldn't be who you are if you were doing this to get accolades and praise.
Right.
So when they come, it just shocks you so much. And
Yeah, I was like, and I think someone took a picture of me, and I was standing there like this, like just like wow, it's just like
yeah.
I'm so humble, and
Mhm.
I just thank God. Um, I
For
don't know.
working through you and with you.
Jesus.
And you're that ray of sunshine that I was describing earlier when I was introducing you. I mean, you walk in the room and you don't know it, but you bring that positive energy with you. No
Thank you,
pretense.
Jesus.
You're just a real person. And
Whew.
I'm so happy to have met you at Maurice's, who's also doing the work. Maurice was he was on one of our first shows.
Okay. Yes.
Highlighted what he's doing for the youth in the community through Results Kids Club.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I want to encourage our viewing and listening audience to donate to you. What do you need? How can we be of help?
Whew, I need a building.
Okay, so we need a building fund. We need people to contribute to your building fund. Would they do that through your website? Do you have a donation button on your website?
I do. I have donation on the website, and I also there's a GoFundMe page with Gloria's Helping Hands Incorporated. Um, so they could go there as well.
Okay.
And there's a Cash App we have. So either one of those are ways they can donate. If someone is like to donate a house or a building or whatever, so that I can start housing these women and children, that would be great too. I I'm in the process of applying for grants,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get what we need. I also partnered with another nonprofit, Wayward Homes,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to be feeding the children this summer. Um, because they suffer when kids aren't in school. A lot of them can't eat or don't eat
Right.
because they have the food insecurity. So I'm partnering with them to reach the community and go out and feed either breakfast and lunch or dinner and a snack. And so if what I've done so far is went to like different apartment complexes
Mm-hmm.
and talk to them, and they tell me how many children they have, and so we're going to provide food for them
Oh, wonderful.
from May the 30th through August the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has funding that she's getting from the government, but I haven't been able to get that funding yet because I'm just getting started. So you have to have like certain documents, years worth of bank statements and all that stuff in order to even apply for that. But I'm on it next year.
Oh yeah.
So Kimberly, if making and accessing your imagination for a moment and envisioning the next 5 years, what do you see?
Whew.
Your vision board out loud. Let's hear it.
In 5 years, I'm going to have at least 3 shelters.
Oh
Okay,
wow.
At least three.
three.
At
Mm-hmm.
least a minimum of three, maybe more, but a minimum of three. And they're going to be in other areas outside of Georgia as well.
And the request for a home or a house is not totally out of reach. There are so many empty homes and buildings around Atlanta.
I know.
Sometimes the person that owns it would just be willing to donate it to a
Mhm.
not-for-profit organization. So I'm putting that out there because
Amen.
I've heard of, I've heard, I met someone I think I was at a meeting and I met a gentleman who was running like a halfway house for people who had substance abuse issues and they were,
Mhm.
transitioning back into the community. And he got this beautiful home that was donated to him from someone, maybe from the last owner. But and I forget how he met the person, but I ended up going to visit because I used to work in substance abuse
Mhm.
many moons ago. And I was so struck by his story. And I mean, it looks like a mansion on DeKalb Avenue. And
Wow.
recognized a solid brick building. and it was donated to his. Or when the person heard about his story and what he was doing to serve the community, they're like, I've got this building and it's just there, and we don't live
Mm.
there. So, like I said, I'm just planting those seeds, putting them out
Amen.
for our listening audience.
Amen.
Everyone
I
knows
re-
a building or a home or someplace that can serve as a shelter to.
yes, ma'am. And I just wanted to say this. Gloria's Helping Hands is not just a shelter. We want to be able to give the women a hand up, not a hand out. Because if you're giving someone a hand out, you're just meeting that need for that moment.
Right.
We want to be able to provide them the resources they need as far as life skills training, counseling, parenting, um, interview skills, job, resume writing, credit man, credit restoration,
Mm-hmm.
money management. We want to teach them how to prepare open bank accounts and prepare to investments, make investments and stuff like that. So that way, they won't end up back in a situation that
Right.
they're in. And
Holistic care.
I'm sorry.
Holistic
Holistic,
care.
everything.
Amen. Yeah, and that way they could pass that information and education on to their children,
Mm.
so that their children and the generations after them
Mm-hmm.
can be productive citizens. And that's my heart.
Mm.
That's my goal, and
That's
that's my vision.
that's a
Yeah,
wonderful
that, that
vision.
that is beautiful. And as I've been listening to you from the beginning to present, I was thinking your story, uh, the early 12 years, part of your narrative, has established a theme and a pattern that you have followed without knowing that it would lead you to where you are. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yes, sir.
And so your story resonates with suffering, trauma and pain,
Hmm.
recovery, uh, resilience is the dominant theme word that comes to mind that
Hmm.
seems to fall upon you, and therefore continues to seem to result in self transformation.
Mm.
And so the affirmations of affection that is offered to you, uh, you are just called to just receive it. And a way to receive it is just to breathe it in and embrace yourself, and allow that affirmation, that affection to continue to transform who you are, provide you with more inner strength to continue to do what you see yourself doing and where you see yourself being in the next 5 years. It's a very beautiful narrative,
Thank you.
and I'm so honored that you are sharing it with us in particular and our audience in general.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope what I'm saying and what I'm doing can help somebody. You know,
I'm sure it is.
I hope that's my whole goal. That's what God created me for, is to be a helper.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here to help.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
what you're doing.
You
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Doing the
Thank you.
work, and you are
It's
making.
not easy, but
Oh,
it's worth it.
what's
It's not easy, but it's worth it.
It's never easy. So, and everybody, I want you to check out her GoFundMe. Her Cash App is $GHHINC7 for those listening and not watching. The GoFundMe is gofund.me/1476F as in Frank, 5E as in everybody, and the number 7. GoFundMe. Yeah, we see you with those shelters, and you're saying 3. You'll probably end up with 6 to 10. There's
7, 10, 20.
such a need. Thank you for standing in the gap.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. And also, I'm gonna need a lot of volunteer help once
Yeah,
this stuff get going. So y'all be prepared to volunteer.
absolutely. You're in the Atlanta metropolitan area,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So that so that our listeners, we have listeners all over. But for those that are in the Atlanta metropolitan area, I want you to follow up with Kimberly and give her your support. Give her the love that she's given out to the community.
Amen.
With that,
Thank
we'd
you.
like to say thank you so much again for joining us. Somebody really, is that really Jay says, your work is impactful. We love you, Kimberly.
Wow. Thank
Wow.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
that is
you.
so nice. That is so nice. And there were a
Whew.
number of other comments too, but all positive. People are just so inspired by your work
And your story.
and your story.
Amen. I'm writing a book, y'all. I've been writing it for years. It's hard.
All right, well, get it done. I'll work with you on the book thing. I've got one that it's
Oh,
been on my computer now for about 5 years. I've got to get it out too. So
see?
yeah, yeah. But I've learned some new tools. I'd be happy to share those with you. They help.
All right. That'll
Yeah.
work. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Any closing words of wisdom in 1 minute or less that you would like to share with our listening audience?
Listen, y'all, just keep God first. That's all I can say. Keep God first. He will lead you. He will order your steps. Keep him first. Also, I do an empower hour on Monday through Fridays from 10 a.m. to whenever. It's supposed to be an hour, but it's empower hour prayer. If you're interested, just hit me up on the email and I'll send you the link. And we pray sometimes for 2, 3 hours. Do testimonies, prayer requests, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you so very much. And we'd like to thank all of you who are listening live or watching live for joining us once again for a wonderful show of inspiration, beautiful narrative and story that has led Kimberly into the caring ministry that I'm going to use the term ministry that she is engaged in. And one thing I do want to say, the reason I'm always asking, I guess, between ages 1 and 12, and I said there's a method to the madness, because Kimberly shows us that when we are aware of our early life story, it is during that time period that the themes for our life are developed. And if you look very carefully, you can see and find the traces of where your purpose already is. It is established in our childhood. And we can't see it then, but our guardian angels, our diamond, our genius is with us, inspiring us. So nothing about our childhood is working against us. As Rilke would say, everything is working for us, even when it seems that it's in a place of darkness. See,
All things work together for the
darkness cannot
good.
stay
Yes.
dark, because light ultimately will have the
Right.
last word. So
Right.
we
Amen.
thank you so very much. We look forward to you being with us next week. Not sure who our guest will be, and maybe,
Oh,
but we'll be here, and someone will be with us.
Oh, we're going to have Dr. Bev, Dr.
Yeah.
Beverly Orr. She's going to be talking about the use of AI to do your writing projects. I definitely want you to listen, Kimberly, because she has given me some really good tips. And very, very, AI, when it comes to the writing and creative space, it's like an endless dictionary or encyclopedia on everything. So
okay.
it'll really help people who have those books that are waiting. It'll give you some words and phrases like, "Oh, that's exactly what I need." So
Right. Yes, ma'am. Awesome. I definitely will tune
next
in.
Tuesday, Dr. Beverly Orr will be with us. It will be a phenomenal show.
All
Lastly,
right.
we don't do this as much, but I want to share this text. I haven't read it. We have not read it yet, but we listened to a show that is just tremendous information that's blowing our mind.
Dr. Be Serious. We listened to him talk about parasites in our life. Oh my God, in our bodies, on our animals, specifically cats. There's a whole lot to learn. We may try to get him or someone to talk about that issue on the show, because it's a big issue. So we've got to go. We can do this. We need to talk about going to an hour and a half.
Extending the time. It goes too fast.
We're just getting warmed up.
Thank y'all so very much. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Bye.
It is for the ancestors.